So we now move over to our next set of devotees. Actually, I was going to introduce them as a whole family, but they're both in two different locations. So I'm going to have to do half and half. And so Ajay Krishna Prabhu told me to tell Radhika Didi and Nona Didi to speak first. So I'm going to follow that instruction. So I would like to I'll introduce both of them at the same time, if that's okay. So Srimati Navalkishori Didi and Srimati Radhika Didi are both from Canada, Toronto, and they are in a Vaishnav family with Ajay Krishna Prabhu, who most people know him actually as Ajay Krishna Prabhu pilot. He's got that title. I don't know why he's got that, obviously because he's a pilot, but that's his title, and this is his beautiful family. So I would like to introduce Navalkishori Didi. Most people know her as Nona Didi. She met the devotees in Holland in 92-93, and she briefly met Brajanath Prabhu there. And then as time moved on, in 2001 and 2, she took Harinam and Diksha. She's actually a very, very talented person. She's actually a pilot herself. So she's not, she's amazing. She's flew with Srila Gurudeva on a couple of occasions, and has flown with him on the flight. I think, were you flying him?
Yes, I flew him.
Oh, that's so cool. So she's flown Srila Gurudev to destinations, which I think is phenomenal. And she's worked on some Punjabi books for translation for Srila Gurudev as well. And she's raising 2 beautiful daughters in Toronto as well. So with great pleasure and honor, I would like to invite our first speaker, Srimati Navalkishori Didi from Toronto. Haribol Didi.
Haribol. I offer my Dandavat pranams to my Gurudev, and all the best regards to the devotees, my god brothers and god sisters. Yeah, I would like to so tell my story. In 92, I was in Holland on an exchange program. I was exchange student basically for a year. There I met some devotees from ISKCON. So she introduced me to Krishna consciousness. And that's where I had briefly, one day I had met Brajanath Prabhu and Vrinda Didi. So those were like 6-7 months that this lady preached to me about Krishna, and I was totally convinced. Then I went back to my life in Toronto, and I started forgetting about Krishna. She had given me a photograph, like of Black Krishna and Radha Rani. I kept it for a few years, and I would try to throw it away, but then I couldn't. And then one day, I finally threw them away. I'm like, because when you're like, I was like 17, 18 in 92, 93. So slowly I started forgetting about them. But you know what Gurudev says, that Krishna is very tricky. Once he holds your hand, he's gonna grab you. So 5 years passed by, and I did my flying in commercial pilot license in Toronto and in the USA. Then I went back to India. I got a job there. So I was in Mumbai, where I met my husband. We are batchmates. And so he takes me on my first date, and that was to ISKCON temple. And I remember standing there. I'm like, hey, I know this black boy, and Radharani. And that's where all my dates were. Let's go to ISKCON temple, because it was so easy to eat at Govinda, just fantastic. Walk on the beach and then go to your own houses. So in 99, Gurudev had come to Mumbai. I met him there briefly. It was just like pranam, and that's it. And then my husband, he told me that, if Gurudev says yes to our marriage, I will marry you. Otherwise, it's like tata, bye-bye. I'm like, what? After 2 years? Like, this is what I get? So in 2001, 2001, or he takes me to meet Gurudev in Mathura. So I was really scared. I'm just thinking like, okay, this is it. Like, it's like, it might be bye-bye from now. But anyhow, when the door opened of his room, I as soon as I walked into the mutt, I actually had a really good positive vibes coming, right? Because there were a lot of devotees and stuff. So when I saw Gurudev, like he looked right at me and there was light falling on his eyes, on his face. And he said, he didn't even ask who I am or, what's my name, nothing. He said, do you see all these buildings, all these high-rise buildings? Krishna can destroy that in 1 second. And on the very second, he can bring it all back up. So it was like reading a good novel, where you can imagine buildings falling. I actually saw that, and then they coming back up. I'm like, okay, I believe you, in my heart. He was just so sweet. Like I remember that moment, my heart it just lit up. I just lit up like a Christmas tree. Um, it was like love at first sight. And then he said, "Oh, who is she?" Then my husband said, "Oh, this is the girl I want to marry." Uh, and then before we could ask him, can I not? Guru, immediately there was like a garland of roses he had on his thigh, or maybe he was wearing, and he broke that, and he just started giving flowers like roses to these devotees who were standing there. And here I am thinking, like, is it gonna be a yes or no? He starts reading the mantras, and he gets us married. I'm like, how benevolent! I mean, So this was my Guru Day, but the beautiful thing was, when I saw him, he just put all that faith in me. And after that day, I actually never had a question. I never asked him anything. And he gave me my 16 rounds, and it obviously meant that I have to give up on onion and garlic. I think I had already done that a little before. So when I went on my flight after meeting him, I was a little worried. What am I gonna eat? So the cabin crew, she comes to the cockpit and she's like, Captain, what do you wanna eat? And I'm like, I don't eat onion and garlic, so maybe I can have bread and butter. She's like, oh no, on Jet Airways flights, there are always two meals. They're Jan meals. It does not even have potatoes in it. Forget about onion and garlic. I'm like, oh my God, this is like so favorable for bhakti. Gurudev was arranging everything. I'm like, okay, fine, I'll have the Jain meal. So that just became so easy for me. Then I remember in Khan Market in New Delhi, I used to go and have this pastry at Sugar and Spice. Like that was the favorite pastry. I'm thinking, oh, I guess I can never go to a pastry shop now because everything has eggs in it. So after about 3, 4 months, one day I just took the courage. I'm like, okay, let me go inside and let me ask that man what I can eat, because they have a lot of nice cakes and pastries. I'm like a really sugar freak. And I went in there. This man, he ran his finger around all the pastries. He's like, no, 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 all have egg. And then he stopped at the one that I used to love, the 3-layered pastry. He goes, this is the only one that does not have egg. I'm like, yay, how favorable for bhakti. Everything was just, falling in his place. Yeah, so like that, I've had so once I was at Mathura Mutt after about a year. It was Guru Purnima, and I bought a lotus flower like for 10 rupees, thinking that because Gurudev always looked like a lotus flower. It was so beautiful and the light, like effulgent, coming out. So I stood in line for about hour and a half. And it was really, really sultry, sweaty weather. Everybody was in sweat. So I'm holding the lotus flower like this so it doesn't bend or break. About hour and a half waiting in the line, I finally reach Gurudev where I can give the flower. But he's sitting on a low bench, and people just pushed me away, and I just went to the side. And I was thinking in my heart, oh no, I can't give this flower to him. My chance, I've lost it. Gurudev, he got up, he stood up, and he snatched the flower from my hand. And there was a picture of Keshav Maharaj behind him. So he offered it to his Gurudev. Somehow, I think there was a garland and it got stuck there. And then he said, come back. So I went back, and then he gave me my Gopal mantra. And then another I think, yeah, a few months passed by. And then I had this deep desire in my heart to take Diksha, but I thought I will never ask Gurudev. Uh, I want him to. I want him to say, I want to give you Diksha, you're ready now. So it was a very initial stage of Gopinath Bhavan, maybe the very first year that I opened up. So Gurudev told me, he says, have I given you Diksha? I'm like, no. He said, come tomorrow, I will give you Diksha. And I was like, yay, like my desire, my God, he's heard me. Gurudev, I know he hears everyone and he's always heard me. So next day I went and he gave me Diksha. And that day, Didi, I don't know where the tears came from. It was like you can fill up a bucket. I just kept crying. And I didn't even like twitch my face or even blink my eyes. I think kept staring at him, and he kept giving the diksha. He kept pronouncing, all the eight mantras that he gives us. And that day he said, from today onwards, I am your father, and this diksha is your mother. He says, remember this. I'm sure he must have told this to a lot of people. So my husband, he invited him. He says, come to our house. He kept saying that. And then one day Gurudev decided, he says, yes, I will come to your house. We actually live 20 minutes south of New Delhi airport. uh, he says, I will stay there because nobody will disturb me. And devotees won't come there. So first day he came to our place, I remember holding a garland. I didn't know if I can give the garland to Gurudev. I didn't know at that time, like he was, I never saw ladies give him garland. So I just stood there like, and I just froze, like I didn't know what to do. I was shivering. I remember wearing a blue sari. I was really shaking. And he just went so sweetly. He just bent his neck. He says, yeah, give it to me, girl. Like, don't be afraid. So I put the garland on him. Then he went into this room. Then he says, am I taking over your bedroom? I'm like, no, Gurudev, this is a spare room. Like, we had a couple of spare rooms because it was just me and my husband staying at that time in the house. And he was very sweet. The next day he's telling me, oh, I know, I heard you're from Canada, so what can you make me a dish from there? I'm like, what? What do I make? So I didn't know how to cook that well at that time. I just made him some pasta. But I realized it's not that food, he just wanted me to do some service to him. And obviously I was so happy, and I made that. And like that, I think. Then he came to our house many times. And one time when he was coming, maybe the next time, all the pilots, they used to wear this Mont Blanc pen. It was like really in fashion to have a Mont Blanc pen. So I would go to the duty free shop and I would look at the pen. Then I'm thinking, oh, why spend $300 on a pen, when you can just buy like for $5 or something. And that was the week that Gurudev was coming to our house. He came and he stayed for 5, 6 days. When he was leaving, I checked his room so that he hasn't, sometimes he will leave his socks or something. So I just made sure that, that he hasn't forgotten anything. And on the right, in the middle of the bed on the mattress, there was this Mont Blanc pen there. I'm like, Gurudev, you left this pen behind. I told Madhav Maharaj. He says, no, give it to Gurudev. I said, Gurudev, you left your pen behind. I'm like holding a pen. I'm like, here. Then he's like, oh no, this is for you. I was like, wow. I'm like, Gurudev, I know you fill up spiritual desires, but even material. That was like, I mean, that was just Gurudev. So he gave me his own Mont Blanc pen. I was like, wow, but I never used it. I've kept it in my locker, so special. And one time when he was staying, I had to go to a wedding. It was like a daytime wedding. And obviously, Indian wedding means a lot of jewelry. So when I was coming back, I was trying to sneak into my house, so he doesn't see my big earrings and all that. So I quickly ran up, like kind of hiding my earrings. And I ran upstairs. He was in the living room downstairs. I changed my clothes and I came I came back to him. He says, oh, where are those 1 kg each earrings that you were hiding from me? I'm like, oh, Gurudev, you see everything. He's like, yeah, I see everything. So I was trying to be smart, with my pallu hiding. I thought he won't see me. And I was very quick, but he's more quicker than us, right? Um, yeah, I remember one girl, she came to our house and she was in her trousers, and just outside the door she handed me apples. She says, give this to Gurudev. I don't want to see him because I'm wearing my trousers and I'm coming directly from work. So he was sitting in the backyard, taking some sun. I said, Gurudev, this is from this Didi. She has left this bag of apples and some other fruit. He's like, oh, why hasn't she come inside the house? I said, oh, Gurudev, she was in her trousers and she was feeling shy. And, she was not in her Indian clothes. Gurudev, he didn't like it. He got a little angry. He said, oh, if you have a big boil on your butt, will you not show it to a doctor? You should not hide anything from your guru. And I was like, oh my God, that was like a lesson from me. So sometimes we used to, like, I would be going on a flight, and he would be at the airport. Then I didn't bother if I had trousers or no trousers. I'm like, go, done with pranam, because I didn't want to get scolding from him. And so three things, lot of little, the magic of this Harinam that he's given us. I'm sure all of you have experienced little magical things started happening in my life. And obviously having so much, Nishta with your guru, like, it's possible. And I'm sure you guys have felt it also. Once Gurudev was upstairs in our house, and there was this big bumblebee that came to our house. Generally, I haven't seen that much in India. And Radhika was really small, like for a year, and he just started, doing round and round circles. And I felt so helpless. I couldn't kill it. And my husband is standing there. He never wants to, kill anything. I didn't know what to do. And because I knew if she bites her, because I remember thinking that, oh, it spoils the kidneys generally if a bee bite, if you get like a wasp bee bite. So I just prayed to Gurudev. I said, oh, please, please do something about this. Get rid of this bumblebee. I think I prayed for 3 seconds, and there were other people around me. They saw this. I opened my eyes, that big bee like this. It was right next to Radhika's foot on the floor, dead. I'm like, okay, your magic powers. So, like that, Gurudev, he also installed Radha Krishan in our house, small little deities. Uh, when they came, so I started doing. He did the pran pratishtha, and I started giving food as Gurudev had told us to do, and putting them to bed. And it had only been 5-6 days that we had the deities, and I forgot to put them to sleep. So it was around 11:30, and I wasn't sleeping. I was lying in my bed. At 11:30, Thakurji started ringing the bell, and I heard the bell so loud and clear. I was like, oh my God, I forgot to put Thakurji to sleep. So these are not ordinary, when Guruji puts Puran Pratishtha, this is not ordinary. And like that, around 2 years, 3 years after that, no, maybe 5 years after that, I had both my children. My younger daughter was also born. I was on a flight. I had left my Thakurji, my children, and my maid. She was staying at my mom's house. So my mom and that maid, they forgot to put Takayu to sleep, and all of them are, sleeping in one bed. And it was around like 12ish at night, and the bell started ringing again. And both of them, my mom and the maid, simultaneously, they're like, oh, Raman, my mom is telling the maid, Raman, we forgot to put Thakuri to sleep. And she said, oh, BG, we forgot to put Thakuri. Like the both of them said it together. Oh, it's Thakurji. Like, he's the one who's ringing the bell, put me to sleep. So, yeah. So this was our Gurudev. By the way, he used to love drinking Canada dry ginger ale. So yeah, so anybody who used to come from Canada, like I would be calling them, oh, okay, at least get like 6 cans of Canada dry. Though those days the weight limit of a bag was 32 kg, so people could bring it. So all my relatives knew, oh, we have to do this service for her, known as Guruji. So people were very nice, and they would do this. Um, I had this unfortunate incident in 2004. I had a younger sister, cousin sister, very, very close to me. She passed away in December. So in December, Gurudev was staying at Somnathji's house at that time in Delhi. So around that 10th day, I went to see Gurudev. Uh, when we opened the door, I just started crying. I wanted to like fall over him and hug him, you know. I was crying so much, but I fell on, like, I bowed down on the floor and I started weeping so loud. And Gurudev immediately got up. He says, "Oh, what happened? What happened to my daughter?" Like, then my husband spoke. "Oh, Gurudev, she lost a sister. She was 25." And then Gurudev said, "Oh, don't cry." You know, he did something like this in the air. He says, "I've brought her back to me." And that, like, immediately I stopped crying because it was such a extraordinary thing to say. No one says that. He just went like this in the air. No, it was left hand. He went like this. He goes, "Oh, I brought her to me." I was like, wow, like you can do that. You can do that. And then after about 6, 7 months, again, I met him at the airport. Um, I was going on a flight and he was, he was on a different flight. Uh, so Mother Marge went to just sort out his tickets and I sat down like on the floor and I started weeping again. I said, "Gurudev, I'm still feeling sad. My sister is not here. Like, I still cry for her so much." And then, like how a mother gets angry at a small baby, he just turned around. He says, "I told you so many times, a soul never dies. We just go into a different world, to a different body. You're not listening to me." And he just, like, how little sweetly, he just like turned his face around like this. He goes, "Why aren't you?" Because he had told me this earlier also, that the soul never dies. We just travel to a different body. And that time, because I asked him again, and then he just got a little annoyed, like, "Do you not have faith in me? I keep telling you this. Why aren't you not believing in your guru's word?" And then slowly, time heals. um, yeah, I was expecting with Radhika, first pregnancy, and we were in Navadip. I must have been like 4 months pregnant. So I took the rickshaw to where Gurudev was. Because Gurudev used to reach a little early at all the parikrama spots in Navadip. I also reached, me and my husband, and Gurudev said, "I want some nariyal pani, coconut water." So we got him coconut water. At that time, my husband said, "Oh, Gurudev, Noras, we're expecting a first child." So Gurudev was holding his coconut water, drinking from the straw, and he looked at me and he stopped and he handed over the coconut water to me. I was like, how sweet. And I'm just thinking, and my husband just grabs it. He took a sip. I'm like, you monkey, let me have it first. But then he gave it to me. Now today he laughs. He says, "Oh, you got Maha Prasad. You got," because I'm also a devotee. So don't. So anyhow, that is such a blessing that Guru Dev gave me, like his, and coconut water. I think out of that, like, he's blessed both of my children so much, Didi. Living in India, in Gurgaon, although we live in India, but the school system is so crazy. Everybody wants to be like the Western. They just want to do exactly whatever they see in the movies. Like people in Toronto might not be doing that, but people in Gurgaon and Delhi, they want to do. They're thinking movies is the real world. Let's party. Let's do this. So because of that, like, Gurudev has saved both my children from that. And I don't know how, but we ended up here about 4.5 years ago for Radhika and Bhuvan Moini to do their education. When Radhika was around 3, 4 months old, that was the first time, like, because she was born in August, this Navdeep, no, Kartik Parikrama. So I took her to see Gurudev, and on the way she had vomited a couple of times, very sensitive skin and the bumpy roads. Um, so I was holding Radhika like this from 4.5 months old. She's crying a lot. And from the right side, Gurudev was coming. And I was thinking, oh, this is going to be so embarrassing. She's crying so much. Like, what will I do? And I'm trying to pacify her. Nothing is stopped. She's just crying, crying, crying. And Gurudev is like around 3 meters from me. This girl, she just turns around and she's in awe. Like, her eyes are like this, and she just quiet, mute, and she's staring at Gurudev. I'm not kidding you. It was like she's remembering him. I didn't know a 4 month old baby who can barely, like, get there next to straighten up. And she just stood, like, she just stared at him. And then I said, "Oh, Gurudev," she was crying so much. And as soon as she saw you, she's all quiet. And then Mother Mara said, "Oh, she has recognized her guru." So, um, when Gurudev was about to, leave in around October, November in 2010, a friend of mine, Hema Gauri from Vrindavan, she kept telling me, "Oh, get your daughter, get her initiation, get Radhika her Harinam," because the other one was too young. And I was like, "No, I don't force anything on my children." She kept telling me. I remember being in Mumbai or some other flights, and every time I would land, she would be like, "No, na, get Radhika Harinam, get her Harinam." I'm like, "No, Himagari, I don't do these things. Then I started praying to Guru. I prayed to Gurudev, I want that Radhika should come up to me and say, I want to take Harinam because I don't want to pressurize my children. It should come. All I know is anything I want, I pray to Gurudev." And so in Kartik, we were at Cheerghat. She was 7 years old, and she came up to me. She pulled my sari. She says, "I want to take Harinam." I'm like, "Okay, Gurudev, we've connected. This is it." So that day we got Harinam for her. So like that, it's been a blessing. It's been a beautiful journey that I have only understood one thing. I mean, I remember one thing from Gurudev. He always said, whatever you do in your life, do it for Krishna. So even my children, whatever I put them into, like extra classes, people were doing horse riding. And I said, horse riding, that has nothing to do with Krishna. Music, yes, music does. I did every, like, I've just remembered that. So I've done everything that connects to Krishna. When I put her into music class, I thought, one day she can sing Guru Dev Kripa Karke, and I'm like happiest. I didn't know that she's gonna advance more than me and my husband. Like 2 years back, when I came here, that I just kept praying to Gurudev, like, please get my children into bhakti. But I would never say a word to my children, never tell them to come and attend Aarti, because when Gurudev can do things, why should I tell my children, So he has put this bhav in them, and they do beautiful bhajans and Aartis. I think that time is up. I will end here. Thank you so much. I think Radhika will speak, or yes.
Yeah, I'll introduce Radhika Didi in a second.
Okay.
But and Nonu Didi, that was just so amazing. Like your relationship with Srila Gurudev is so beautiful. It's unbelievable. And firstly, I would love to see your Thakurji, because wow, like he actually rings the bell when you haven't put him to sleep. That's
Yeah.
just amazing. And also, I just want to say that I love Canada Dry as well. It's like the best drink in Canada. Anyone that hasn't tried it, it's amazing. Um,
Radhika will take it in a second.
Okay, it's gonna be kind of hard.
sorry. Oh, they're so beautiful. Jai,
Yeah,
they're
all
beautiful.
dressed up really nicely today, but
No, they're dressed beautifully.
okay, here.
Yes.
Nona Didi also in Gurudev was, this this concept of Gurudev being our mother and our father. You can actually, from what your experiences are with Srila Gurudev, you can really see that he imbibed you as his darling daughter, and everything that he kind of, what father doesn't want to like please their daughter, and he will do everything, bend backwards to do that for his daughters, and it's just so beautiful. And actually in England today is Mother's Day. So it's quite appropriate that everyone's saying or referring to Srila Gurudev as their mother, because today is also Mother's Day in England. So it's just bizarre that how everyone's referring to Srila Gurudev as that, and today is that. So just wanted to make that. But thank you so much, and I really look forward to connecting with you more and hearing from you. So I hope that happens.